On November 24, 1971, the world witnessed one of the boldest crimes in aviation history. A man identifying himself as D.B. Cooper hijacked a commercial airliner, extorted $200,000 in ransom, and parachuted into the night. Despite one of the largest manhunts in FBI history, his identity and fate remain a mystery. Who was this man? How did he vanish so completely? This is the story of the D.B. Cooper hijacking, America's greatest unsolved case. The hijacking began on a rainy afternoon in Portland, Oregon. As passengers boarded Northwest Orient Flight 305, bound for Seattle, they had no idea that their lives were about to be forever changed. Among the crowd of typical travelers, there was one man who seemed entirely out of place. In his mid-40s, he wore a dark suit, a tie, and sunglasses, his appearance so unremarkable that he blended seamlessly into the crowd. He paid for his one-way ticket in cash, using the name Dan Cooper. The flight was a short, routine trip, but for this man, it would be anything but ordinary. The threatening note. Shortly after takeoff, as the plane ascended into the misty skies, the man took action. Cooper quietly passed a note to the flight attendant, a woman named Florence Schaffner. At first, she assumed it was merely a flirtatious gesture, nothing more than a man trying to get her attention. She tucked it into her pocket without thinking twice, but Cooper wasn't playing games. He leaned closer to her and whispered, "Miss, you'd better read that note. I have a bomb." The flight attendant's heart raced as she read the note. It was short, blunt, and chilling. The man had a bomb, and he demanded $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck ready to refuel the plane when it landed in Seattle. Cooper did not make threats lightly. He made demands. The situation was serious, and Schaffner quickly alerted the cockpit. Cooper's calm demeanor. Cooper remained calm and composed throughout the ordeal. He wasn't a frantic hijacker, shaking with anxiety or shouting demands. No, he was polite, calm, and eerily methodical. He even ordered a bourbon and soda as the crew scrambled to relay his demands to authorities. In fact, his demeanor was so calm that it initially threw the crew off guard. Authorities were being notified, and the plane was diverted to Seattle. But it wasn't clear if Cooper was bluffing or if he was truly capable of carrying out his threat. The plane lands in Seattle. As the plane landed in Seattle, Cooper's demands were met. The FBI, working with local authorities, arranged to have the ransom delivered in cash, along with the 4 parachutes he requested. The passengers were released from the plane in exchange for the ransom, but Cooper kept the crew on board. Then the plane took off again, headed south toward Reno, Nevada. Cooper was still in control. He instructed the pilots to fly low and slow, just above the ground, in a manner that made the crew uneasy. The cabin was depressurized, adding to the intensity of the situation. The air was cold, the flight was quiet, and Cooper's calculated plan was now in full motion. The daring escape. Somewhere over the dense forests of southwestern Washington, Cooper made his daring escape. At around 8:00 p.m., the plane flew over the wilderness, a vast and untamed region of towering trees, rivers, and hills. Cooper had planned his escape carefully, choosing the pitch-black night to disappear without a trace. In one of the most audacious moves of the entire hijacking, he lowered the rear stairs of the Boeing 727 mid-flight, a risky maneuver that had never been attempted before. The rear stairs of the 727 had been designed for ground use, not for high-altitude flights. They were not supposed to be lowered while the plane was in the air, but Cooper didn't seem concerned by the risks. As the plane flew just above the rugged terrain, with nothing but the night sky above him, he strapped on a parachute and jumped. He vanished into the darkness, disappearing without a trace. The FBI search and investigation. When the plane landed safely in Reno, the crew was unaware of Cooper's fate. It was only when they discovered the rear stairway had been opened and that Cooper and the ransom money were gone that the full magnitude of his escape became clear. The authorities were immediately notified, and an extensive search operation was launched, but Cooper was nowhere to be found. The only thing left behind was a mystery that would consume the nation for decades. The FBI's quickly launched what became one of the largest and most expensive manhunts in U.S. history. Agents combed the forests and rivers, using helicopters and ground teams in an effort to locate Cooper's parachute, his body, or any trace of him. The search lasted for weeks, but there was no sign of Cooper or his parachute. The man who had carried out the hijacking had disappeared as completely as if he had evaporated into thin air. The $5,800 discovery. But the story didn't end there. In 1980, nearly a decade after the hijacking, a strange clue surfaced. A young boy, playing along the Columbia River, discovered something unusual: a decaying bundle of $20 bills. The money matched the serial numbers of the ransom that Cooper had received. $5,800 in cash, just a fraction of the ransom, had been found buried near the riverbank. The FBI's analyzed the bills and confirmed they were the same money Cooper had extorted. But what did this mean? Did it suggest that Cooper survived the jump and somehow managed to survive in the wilderness? Or did it indicate that he died during his escape and the money had been left behind? No one knew for sure. Theories and suspects. Over the years, countless theories have been proposed about Cooper's identity and what happened to him after his daring jump. One prominent theory centers on Richard McCoy, a man who carried out a similar hijacking just months after the D.B. Cooper case. McCoy, a former soldier, hijacked a plane, demanded ransom, and parachuted out in a nearly identical fashion. Some have speculated that McCoy might have been Cooper, but McCoy was captured and arrested, leaving many to question whether there was any connection between the two. Another theory points to Kenneth Christensen, a former flight attendant for Northwest Orient Airlines, who was suspected of having knowledge of the airline's operations. Christensen's background and possible connections to the airline made him a strong suspect in the eyes of some investigators. However, like McCoy, there was never enough concrete evidence to link him directly to the crime. Despite all of the theories and the hundreds of suspects that have been proposed, the case remains unsolved to this day. In 2016, the FBI's officially closed the investigation, but amateur sleuths have continued to pursue the truth. Websites, books, documentaries, and social media posts have kept the mystery alive, with new theories emerging regularly. Some believe that Cooper perished in the wilderness that night, while others argue that he survived, starting a new life under a false identity. The legacy of D.B. Cooper. What we know for sure is that D.B. Cooper remains one of the most fascinating figures in American criminal history. He was not a typical hijacker, not driven by revenge or political motives, but by a desire for money and an audacious thirst for adventure. His meticulous planning, calm demeanor, and ability to vanish without a trace have left a lasting legacy in the annals of true crime. Was Cooper a brilliant criminal mastermind who outwitted the authorities at every turn, or did his daring escape end in tragedy? We may never know the answer to that question. But what is certain is that his story has captured the imagination of millions and continues to fuel speculation, theories, and investigations. The continuing mystery. The D.B. Cooper case remains a symbol of one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of modern times, inspiring countless documentaries, books, podcasts, and theories. His audacity, his calm under pressure, and his ultimate disappearance into the night continue to mystify the world. Who was D.B. Cooper? What happened to him? Was he a criminal mastermind who pulled off the perfect heist, or did he meet an untimely end in the rugged forests of Washington? What do you think happened to D.B. Cooper? Let us know in the comments below. And make sure to like and subscribe to our channel. See you in the next one.